Looking back, innovations that impacted our lives. Number one, Hubble Space Telescope. In 1990, the launch of the Hubble Space Telescope realized a dream first articulated in 1923 of building large space based telescopes. Initially beset by problems due to faulty grindings of its mirrors, a rescue mission set it right. By 1995, Hubble Space Telescope had begun beaming back stunning images of our universe, including the creation of stars in the Eagle Nebula, the celestial butterfly, deep field images of the early universe, and much more. Over 9,000 peer reviewed papers have been published based on Hubble data. Hubble Space Telescope's greatest achievement has been to capture the layperson's imagination and reveal the wonders and mysteries of the universe. Hubble is an old lady today and will be decommissioned soon, but while we wait for the James Webb Telescope to go into orbit, enjoy some of Hubble's amazing images. Initially beset with problems. Beset means covered with problems. Beset means having lot of trouble with something. In 1990, the launch of the Hubble Space Telescope realized a dream first articulated in 1923. Articulate, Articule. Articulate means to express something clearly. Hubble Space Telescope's greatest achievement has been to capture the layperson's imagination. Layperson means a person without professional or specialized knowledge in a particular subject. Number 2, MRI. Since its introduction in 1977, MRI scans, that is, magnetic resonance imaging, have saved the lives of millions by giving doctors the ability to see detailed images of internal structures without using radiation. Especially, its ability to contrast between soft tissues has made it invaluable to detect clots. Functional MRIs go beyond snapshots and track the body's reactions during a scan. The technology owes a debt to the early Apollo missions, which developed digital signal processing to enhance images of the moon. Today, MRI technology has gone well beyond its application in medical diagnostics to fields like paleontology and archaeology, where they are used widely. For their efforts in developing MRI technology, Paul Lauterbur and Peter Mansfield won the Nobel Prize for Medicine in 2003. Today, MRI technology has gone well beyond its application in medical diagnostics to fields like paleontology and archaeology. Paleontology, Paleontology. Paleontology means the study of fossils as a way of getting information about the history of life on Earth and structure of rocks. Number 3, eradication of smallpox. Smallpox? Does anyone remember? A horrifying infectious disease that first emerged over 12,000 years ago, smallpox killed 300 to 500 million people in the 20th century alone. With the help of an extraordinary vaccination campaign, the World Health Organization declared smallpox eradicated in 1979, the first time mankind had eradicated a dangerous infectious disease. Unfortunately, since then, only one other infectious disease, rinderpest, has been eradicated, though polio remains on the verge. If only we could run a similar campaign to eradicate the greatest killer in human history, that is malaria. Rinderpest, Rinderpest. Rinderpest means an infectious disease of cattle. Number 4. The RTI. The Right to Information Act 2005 allows any citizen to request information from the government in an expeditious manner. While RTI is no panacea, it has the potential to introduce serious accountability into the system. Today, the RTI is making its presence felt most parts of the country, but imagine a day when everyone is aware of his right to demand information and accountability from the government. RTI will then become a bane of special interests and rent seekers and play a large part of rooting out petty corruption that makes the lives of so many of us so miserable. While RTI is no panacea, it has the potential to introduce serious accountability into the system. Panacea, Panacea. Panacea means a remedy for all diseases or difficulties. But imagine a day when everyone is aware of his right to demand information and accountability from the government. RTI will then become a bane. Bane, B-A-N-E, bane means a cause of continuous trouble or unhappiness. RTI will then become a bane of special interests and rent seekers. Rent seeking means it is an economic concept that occurs when an entity seeks to gain added wealth without any reciprocal contribution or productivity. Typically, it revolves around government funded social services and social service programs. Number 5. Globalization. In 1989, the Berlin Wall fell, followed by the collapse of the Soviet Union and its satellites. Many formerly planned economies, including India, adopted the market system in the 1990s. China had already moved to a market-based economy in 1980s. As a consequence, 600 million people have been lifted out of absolute poverty in China alone in about 30 years. Developing countries like China, India, and Mexico have been the prime beneficiaries of a new wave of globalization. Labor mobility and technology allow corporations to send work to where the people are, in the process of reshaping the global economy to our benefit. Despite all its flaws, especially the unfortunate growth of crony capitalism, we are and will be better off if we stick to well regulated, competitive, and free markets. Crony capitalism means an economic system characterized by close, mutually advantageous relationships between business leaders and government officials. Number 6. Return of Steve Jobs to Apple. In 1985, Apple's board forced Steve Jobs out only to buy him back along with Next in 1996, by which time Apple was in the doldrums. In a renaissance inspired by Jobs, Apple began to crank out excellent products one after another. The iPod and iTunes revolutionized the music industry. The iPhone changed the face of smartphones, while the iPad could revive the publishing industry. In the process, the firm made a transition from being merely a computer company to a consumer electronics and services one. Apple is the most innovative and valuable technology company in the world today. In 1985, Apple's board forced Steve Jobs out only to buy him back along with Next in 1996, by which time Apple was in the doldrums. DOLDRUMS. Doldrums means a state of lack of activity or lack of success. In a renaissance inspired by Jobs, Apple began to crank out excellent products one after another. Crank out means to produce something in large amounts like a machine does. Number 7. The World Wide Web. The web would unquestionably rank number 1. The internet existed before the web, but in 1989, an unknown researcher at CGRN called Tim Berners-Lee published a proposal simply titled Information Management, a proposal for running a service on the internet called the World Wide Web, which would let a user access hyperlinked documents using a rudimentary version of the browser. Originally built to meet the demand for information sharing among scientists at CGRN and elsewhere, the web exploded after the introduction of Mosaic and Netscape browsers. Almost as important as the invention itself was Tim's decision to keep the web non proprietary and free. In time, the web has altered our civilization, spawned great wealth, enhanced productivity, increased the speed and pace of globalization. Spawn, SPAWN, spawn means to cause something new or many new things to grow or start suddenly. Thank you for listening.